Welcome to my show, The Women's Connection. I'm Barrie-Louise Switzen. The Women's Connection is a program about women who've had challenges and obstacles in their lives, but more important, it's what they've done about it. Our guest today is a woman who learned judo to stay out of trouble. She parlayed her enthusiasm from a male-dominated sport into one that is a women's sport at the Olympics. So I'd like to welcome this wonderful gal from Brooklyn called Rusty. Welcome.
Thank you.
And Rusty, tell us a little bit about you and your last name.
Well, Rusty Kanakogi is a little bit unusual because Rusty was given to me when I was a child. Actually, I was named after this wonderful dog. And Kanakogi I got from my husband, who's from Japan. So Kanakogi is still unusual in this country because people tell me that, they ask me, what kind of name is it? And I tell them it's Japanese. And they said, Japanese? And I said, yes, I've had surgery. So, I mean, we get along fine.
Now, you are very involved with the Olympics. You're wearing the 1996 Olympic shirt from Atlanta, and you just come back from there.
Yes.
And how did you feel about being down there?
Well, this is my third Olympic, and it was each time I've been at the Olympics, I've worn a different hat. 1984 in Los Angeles, I was doing 100% advocacy. I was fighting for rights for women's judo, and I was dealing with the American Civil Liberties Union, the International Women's World Attorney Association. I had press conference one after the other. I was challenging and debating the International Olympic Committee because they were very concerned about letting women's judo win.
Because?
Well, some of the stories, some of the excuses were we were going to hurt our reproductive organs. It might encourage us to be strange because we're in combative sport. They had all kinds of things. They thought it might encourage lesbianism because women were pinning other women. Who knows what they thought. In the meantime, I think bottom line was they really could not relate to the sport of judo as far as a female doing it. They knew men in combativity, but when they looked at their mothers and sisters and relatives, the IOC, which consisted before of many type of affluent people from that were princes, and they did polo and the like. So if they couldn't visualize their wife, mother, sister in full combat, it was not appropriate. And I think it also maybe they were concerned about empowering women, giving us too much in the next step.
Oh, that would be terrible.
Yeah, I know. I mean, after all.
How did you finally get them to say, yes, we will do this?
Well, it wasn't that easy. The different hats I wore, 84 was advocacy, 88 I was the Olympic coach, and we won a couple medals. And 92 I coached the Haitian men's team. Because I was instrumental helping get Haiti into the Olympics. They had never competed in any sport in the Olympics. And then, of course, 96, I just got back in one piece. And my job was technical supervisor. And I was helping the referees in the scoring system, as well as supervising the weigh-in. How did I get it in? It should probably maybe I can explain it in 3 books. However, to shortcut it,
we only have 20 minutes. Go ahead.
In 20 minutes, actually, I did a number of things. Besides, first of all, I really sincerely believe that we belong there. We worked very hard and trained as hard as the men, if not sometimes harder. And I felt that it was worth anything. I hosted the first Women's World Judo Championships in New York in 1980 at Madison Square Garden. That was a prerequisite.
You must have had quite a turnout for that.
Yeah, it was excellent. In fact, the funny thing was we were the only country having Thanksgiving that weekend. Actually, it was Thursday, Friday. And I just thought as a plus, because the other countries didn't know, I said, you see that parade outside? That's for you. So that worked out well. Nice. I said, wow, this woman can do wonders, and like, where's the judo balloon? But everything that had to be done, petitioning IOC, actually, I had litigation, in fact, unfortunately, for them, against our own Olympic Committee, because there was so much confusion. They didn't know who to believe. The Pan American Union had let us in as a Pan Am sport, and there seemed to be a communication breakdown. So USOC did not allow us in the sports festival or the sports training center. So that was another fight. And I studied the Constitution and bylaws of the International Olympic Committee, the United States Olympic Committee, Constitution of the United States, and I probably got more education than
most lawyers.
Yeah, and I ran with everything. The Division of Human Rights in New York was very helpful. American Civil Liberties Union, and then there's a gentleman in New York by the name of George Spitz. He's sort of an unsung hero. He's the guy who started the 5-borough marathon. And then it turned into the New York Marathon. And George, his sport is running, and we met at an AAU dinner where I was making a presentation of an award. And I got up and I pitched, my problem, my tale of woe that we belong in the Olympics and this and that. And then he and I chatted a few times, and he became an extremely top supporter of our plight, and in fact introduced me to the Division of Human Rights, and we filed a class action. And another unsung hero who gave us our first sponsorship money was our former borough president, Percy Sutton. So there are a lot of people that became involved because they knew how sincere I was and how dedicated I was, and there were a lot of women athletes training in judo, including my own daughter, and I believe they deserved the shot. And not only that, from 1976, we won many more medals than our men in judo did. So we were the winners. We paid our own way, but we came back with the medals, and there was still a lot of partiality against women's judo.
Well, let me just ask you one quick question. What is the Pan Am Games?
The Pan Am Games is the union games. There are 5 unions. That's what constitutes the Olympic rings, the 5 rings. It's each one is a union. The Pan American Union, right. Asian Union, European Union, Oceania, and Africa. And those are the 5 unions, and that's what the 5 rings are about. So we must place in the Pan American Games is our union games, and that's all sports also.
Okay, let's back up a little bit. How did you get involved in judo to begin with, and just tell us a little bit about that.
Well, when I was a kid, I love sport, any sport, and the boys always picked me for the street games, Johnny on a Pony, Ring Olivia, whatever it was, I was always the first one picked. And and I felt good about that. That gave me a lot of self-esteem, that the boys respected me equally as, it wasn't an athlete exactly at that time, but it was, at least I was one of the boys, and I was happy about that, because some of the girls were okay, but some of them sort of like were too mushy for me. Like, they just wanted to sit home and play with dolls, and I wanted to do other things and run.
Be athletic.
I was really restricted. So I was almost like a person with a lot of energy, physically strong, because I used to lift bus stop signs when I was a kid.
Bus stop signs?
Yeah, I liked to pump iron, and there wasn't anything around, so it was a little off balance, so I think my left bicep got bigger than my right bicep. But that evened out later on. And I really wanted to get in sport. And I remember in public school, when we played volleyball in 7th or 8th grade, when I spiked the ball, everybody hit on the floor. I mean, nobody would play volleyball.
Dangerous.
Well, we played battle ball, and battle ball was something like dodgeball, and I would love that because I'd catch the ball, boom, right into my gut. Then I'd run right up to the line, and so close. And you see, when you caught the ball, when you were close to the line, you were right there to throw it back. So that was like my big athletic event. Then I played a little basketball and street games. And then in high school, I wanted to get on the baseball team, the football, whatever I can get on.
But weren't you in some trouble or something that you got into judo?
Oh, yeah. Well, I was always in trouble because I had this energy. And I remember, well, actually, my trouble was not taking things. In other words, when somebody ranked you out, another person, they'd have a mouth fight, and I wasn't good. I may have a mouth now, but at that time, I think my fists reacted first. And I felt good because I used to practice hitting the heavy bag, so I had a good punch. That was sort of my claim to fame. It was like, don't mess with her, because if you do, there's no mouth fight. She's going to slug you, and that's it. Who
got you into judo?
It was a matter of me getting in when a friend of mine showed me some technique and picked me up on his hip. And although I knew that like from the jitterbug, that people could swing each other around, this guy did it so easy. And then I said, how'd you do that? And I said, boy, this would be good, because I mean, I was in a kids gang, a girls gang. I was always a leader. I formed the Coney Island Apaches. What a gang. I mean, it was like 5 of us not knowing we used to fight with each other because nobody had no other gang to fight, you know, when you're an original. And this guy picked me up, and I loved it. I said, wow, do that again, do it again. And then I did it to him, and we just kept picking each other up. And I finally got into a YMCA, and it was myself and 40 men. The guy, I was connected with another Y, and the physical education guy at my place convinced the other guy that I can handle myself. And I remember going to the other Y, and it was all these guys. We weren't allowed judo uniforms. We had to wear, the beginners had to wear army fatigues.
Now, were you the only woman involved at this point in time? When did women really get more involved in the sport?
When I got them involved.
Oh.
And that was part of the deal was I was to learn every Monday night, and the following Wednesday teach it at this place, whatever I learned.
Well, at this point in time, were you the only woman in judo in the world, or just here in Brooklyn in the United States?
Well, in New York, there were several other women, but they were doing what's called form practice, not fighting. I was the only one in combative judo, and combat was natural to me from coming from the street, and, you know, this was much more controlled, and what I liked was, and what I learned was respect, and that you didn't really have to be a bully, that you can enjoy contact sport without hurting anybody. And
a form of self-discipline.
Sure. What happened actually, I first had to get control of myself, and I got control out of myself when I try to muscle somebody down, and then they just go phew, and spin me around, I'm gone. I go, wow, and I was always in awe of that. And it really taught me, it helped my self-esteem. Because even though you walk around doing an act, you still always need your self-esteem built up a little bit. And I found the sport found me. I didn't need much convincing. And as I got better and better, and then I was in judo several years, and then moved to Japan to live and train.
Well, what did your parents think of you being in this male sport?
Well, actually, I think my father passed away when I was, I think, 14. So there was a problem, you know, it was one parent. My brother was my idol, but he was always away because he was in the Air Force when he was 16, and when they found out he was 16, they put him out when he was 16 and a half, an honorable discharge, and then he went in the Marines when he was 17, and he was one of these guys who was physical and liked to work out and played football. And
were you able to flip him?
No, my brother, he's 8 years my senior, and I would have to sit there and he'd look in the mirror and go, am I good looking? I have to say, yes, you are. And then once I sat on his plane, he used to make model planes, and I was lucky he didn't kill me. So he was sort of my idol and my role model. My mother, to support herself and me and, you know, get us food and everything, she always worked, and she was like always exhausted.
Now, what took you to Japan? What took you there?
Judo.
So it took you over to Japan, and you stayed there for years?
Yeah, actually, what happened, I finally got my first teacher passed away, and then I finally hooked up with another instructor from Japan he was a businessman in New York, and it seemed now I was really learning judo, what it was, you know, what it was all about, and I practiced. I was diligent and devoted, and at one point I just couldn't even get enough in New York because he wasn't a full-time instructor. He was only there a couple nights a week. And I remember in 1962 I was competing for my first-degree black belt, and there's nobody to compete against, and so they put up 3 women, and I had never practiced with a woman before with the exception of my students, and that was a different ballgame. We really went at each other, and these were women that came through the form of judo rather than the fighting, and I looked at my teacher like, what am I supposed to do with them? And he went like that. He gave me the high sign. I said, okay, goodbye. And that was it. And I went through them without any problem at all.
Sweating them right out.
Well, I was working with men most of the time, except with the exception of my students, my female students that trained exactly like guys. There's no difference in the training. There's no difference. And look at the Olympics now, 1996. I mean, the women in basketball, in soccer, softball, they're just as exciting as the men in sport. And I always knew they had it, and I always knew they can do it. And it sort of makes me laugh now looking back and thinking, you know, like people looking at me like, what is she doing? She's aggressive. She's physical. She wants to do this and that and run and jump and swing and fight and roll around. And nowadays, people are getting gold medals for those things. And it's wonderful.
It is terrific.
It's wonderful. I always knew they could do it. I always knew it was there. And it was repressed. And who repressed it wasn't men. They were not the enemy. Men have always been my allies. It was other women who said, well, look, this is what you have to look like, this is what you have to act like.
Stereotype.
Exactly. And when you fell out of the mold, you were either a weirdo or they didn't know what to do with you. And thank goodness for Babe Dietrichson, but I wish I knew her because she's an idol.
Now, you lived in Japan for quite a while, and you met your husband.
Yeah.
And then you moved back to the States. Okay, so then you got really involved with the Olympics.
Well, actually, I met him in Japan, and we were just friends. We were boyfriend, girlfriend at the time. And I was training, and that was, I don't know how many times or how many minutes my feet were on the mat. I was mostly up in the air because I was with the creme de la creme. I mean, it was like I died and went to heaven, and it was worth it because I knew when I came back to New York I was going to punish everybody for everything that happened to me in Japan. I knew it, and it was like I came back like a machine. And,
do you find you use it on the streets of New York?
No, I didn't have to because most of the time I don't get really harassed too much because I have a pretty big, strong-looking body to begin with. But once in a while, you get some cuckoo that starts, and you don't even have to do your whole repertoire, just one shot and they're out. So, they usually pick on people that sort of look like suckers.
Well, we should do some exercises in a minute. But
sure.
Women in sports, should they stay in sports to stay physical, to stay healthy? And what age should they start, or what age should they end?
I think, first of all, there's no end. Let's start backwards. And I remember doing a clinic where there were several older women and said, oh, we can't start with weights now. I'm 62 and the other one was like 71. And I said, okay, you don't start with weights. What you do, you go to the supermarket, you buy a honeydew, you buy a cantaloupe, make sure they're the same weight, put them in the plastic bag, and start pumping them. Do it on your way home. I said, nobody will mug you because they're going to think you're nuts. So who's going to bother you? Stop pumping those. Not watermelons, but at least cantaloupes. Sure, and there's so many things people can do. They shouldn't hit a certain age and go, I'm old, it's over.
Having a mental attitude.
I'll tell you, quite frankly, a lot of people would not, a lot of women especially, osteoporosis would have been much more contained had they worked out, because bone density is very important, and you don't get better bone density unless you're doing something physical to make your muscles bigger. And I've heard things from years ago, oh, I don't want muscles, I'll be a boy. I tell my 3 children that I'm a boy, but it doesn't work like that. It's a matter of now it's acceptable, but can you imagine these poor people years ago that were afraid to do anything physical? And to me, it's not for aesthetic value, it's for health. It's preventive medicine. And I'll tell you, I think the healthcare company should be giving big rebates back to people, men and women, that work out. And I think
sounds good to me.
Really, it's amazing because what good is the makeup and what good is the hairstyle if underneath you're crumbling and falling apart?
That's a mask. Let me ask you, if you're sitting in an office and you're at a meeting and you've been there for hours and you're sitting in this uncomfortable chair, what can you do? What kind of exercises can you do?
Well, there's a number of things. First of all, before you do anything heavy duty, you should stretch a little bit. So one of the best things to do, and a lot of people have a misconception, never throw your head straight back. That's no good for your upper vertebrae. Just turn and look at the guy on your right and hold it 5 seconds and straight down and your neck, and then look to the left and pick your shoulders up and hold it, shrug your shoulders and down, and the same thing, and then put your hands together like you're just sitting at the meeting, and then flex tight. Then you're flexing your chest, just sort of, and nobody will see. Don't hold your breath because you'll turn purple and die.
I always hold my breath.
Just like this, and you can continue and just squeezing a little bit. And then if someone can't see your hands, what you could do is starting from your pinky, little hand squeezes, and that's good for your forearm. Just sitting like this, this, and just squeeze from your pinky and squeeze. You can feel it right in your forearms, all right?
Right, yes.
Okay. And then in the office, it's tough to start lifting up your legs and doing crunches with your knees, especially at a luncheon meeting.
Right.
But there are things to do if you're on the train.
Okay.
And you're standing. Most of the time, we're standing on the train, and there's the pole you're holding on to.
Right.
Instead of one hand, hold on with 2 hands. And do squeezes, do opposite squeezes like that. And that's for your shoulders and for your forearms. And then if you're and make sure your thumb is bent. You see, most people, no, not in. like that.
Okay.
Just do the squeezes. You have the pole, and if you're a judo player, this will be very good for your choking techniques. Very good. And you can squeeze like that.
Okay.
And then what you can do also, if you're holding on, okay, you're at one station, and now pull in your abdomen and flex it and tighten your abdomen and hold it and keep breathing until the next stop, and then relax. And you can do the same thing for your gluteus maximus, your butt. Tighten up and hold it.
While you're standing and holding the pole?
Sure, the same exact thing. You can do them both at the same time and this, but you know, they may call an ambulance for you after a while. Nobody will bother you, that's for sure. There's a number of exercises, and I warm up all my classes, so I don't have any problem with working out. But if I have a few hours that are free, I'll go to the gym and I'll be very anonymous and work out. The only thing is I do get funny stares from the woman sitting there who has the terrific aerobic suit on,
right.
the towel and the headband, and I go in with my schleppy old warm-ups, and she'll do her curls with the bicep machine with 10 pounds and sit there like that, and I'll be sort of pacing around waiting, and then she gets up and I go pick it up and like 30, 40 pounds, whatever it is, 50 pounds. But you have to build up to that. I don't advise anybody to start off. Weights are good, aerobic. I play handball at Coney Island. I'm on those courts. My husband is my best opponent. And in Japan, they don't have handball courts. And this guy's terrific because he's my student. And he and I fight to the death on the handball court.
Let me just say you've brought some children here with you, some men.
I wouldn't call them kids anymore. I have...
young adults?
Yes. I have a couple of young adults with me, my students from Brooklyn College Academy.
Would you like to do some lifts, throws, whatever?
Well, I don't know if we can... Maybe I could throw them right here. You don't mind. Okay, let me get Rohan Reed from Brooklyn College Academy. My main man. Take your shoes off.
Let's move the set away. Wait a minute.
Okay, we can do a little...
Hi, Rohan. Hi, nice to meet you.
Okay, first of all...
Wait a minute, am I in the way? That's all I want to know.
No problem. First of all, for practice sometimes, what we do is an exercise like the half squats for your quadriceps.
Yeah.
And I don't know, maybe you can come in from the back.
Let's get the chair.
Break the leg. Stand up there. We'll do piggyback off there. That'll be neat. So you don't have to jump on me.
Oh my God! I don't know if we can. Okay. We're getting this all on the camera here.
Oh yeah. Okay. And from here, we take each other and do half squats. That's for the quadricep. I don't know. Hang on, Ro. See right here, quadricep muscles.
Well, I don't think I'm going to be doing this anytime soon.
And then you take somebody about your own size, or a little lighter, a little heavier, and you do these quad exercises. Then you can do the same thing with toe raises, and that's for your calf muscle. See? Can you see? Okay.
I can see. I don't know if the camera can.
I don't know if you can see it. Then for actual judo practice, what we do is form practice. For instance, if I was going to throw Rohan, which...
Wait, if you can do it... Oh, you got it? Okay, go ahead.
If I was going to throw Rohan, and this is the same thing that can be used for self-defense.
Yeah.
We're holding each other this way, but if he pulled me in, it would be the same thing. And I'm just going to show you the form without the throw.
Okay.
If he pulled me into him, I would go rather than resist and break his balance and take my right leg and take him out. And of course, he would go head first down onto the floor. If he was a wise guy standing next to me, hey, baby. Well, I don't know. He's kind of cute. Maybe I'd let him stand there. But from here, I just pick him up on my hip and throw him away. So there's no end to what you could do. And we have choking techniques. We have arm bars. For instance, if his arm was on me like this, and I didn't want it, all I would do is pick it up and take it and turn it and break it.
Wow.
Okay. You have the wrist, have the elbow, and you have the shoulder. And we forgot to bow in, so let's bow out.
What does the bowing do?
Well, actually, in the sport of judo, it signifies courtesy and mutual respect. Mm-hmm. We can throw each other, and we can do all kinds of technique. But the key point is to really respect each other.
So before you kill each other, you respect each other.
Well, we don't kill each other. We're still around. He's healthy, and I'm healthy, and we have a good time. And I enjoy especially turning young people onto the sport of judo, because what it does, it satisfies a need, and the need is for full contact. The need is for self-esteem. The need is for empowerment, and the intricacies, because it's very tough to stay in judo because you have to take it a lot before you give it.
And usually a punk can't take it. They can only give it.
Right.
So it builds a lot of character. And the kids, the younger kids, have a good time. It's a round sport, so they learn to roll and fall and
keep their muscles agile.
Sure. They're in better physical condition than most kids that don't practice judo. And it's a fun sport. It really is.
Well, I like some of them. I should learn how to do some of them, only from the standpoint you're on the subway, and whenever I feel somebody's going to bump into me, I protect myself. I just put my arm up.
Yeah.
So that I can say, okay, watch it. You're entering my space, but it's more a self-defense space of not getting hurt or being shoved around.
Yeah. Well, what you can also do, what we usually do, rather than block, we just deflect. We get out of the way and let them fall down. That's easier.
Well, they're shoving.
Rather than protect you, we give way. Judo means the gentle way. We give way. So if somebody pushes me, I step back or I step out of the way. So we deflect. And that seems to come across. So we're not tense, and we're pretty balanced, and I think the disposition of the judo player is not so tense. I think it's rather to enjoy life and to give way and give the other person the benefit of the doubt. But if in fact it is an aggressive move, to continue them going a lot faster than they intended to.
Like
and a lot harder than they intended to.
Too bad we can't teach all the children or even adults of any age judo, because then it gives you, I think, probably peace of mind, calm, etc.
It does. I mean, actually, I remember as a kid, or as a young woman, actually, coming into judo, it was like I felt I always needed to prove myself. I had to prove myself. And I'm probably the first advocate of, hey, take it easy. If you win a medal, great. Give it to the best you can. That's all I try to do. I try to reach in and get the best out of them.
I don't mean to interrupt, but we're out of time.
Already?
Wow. And I want to thank you so much, Rusty, for joining us and showing all these.
I have to teach you the bow. Going to get up.
Oh, okay. Let's do our bow.
Do our bow. Put your heels together.
My heels together.
And not so close so we don't knock each other out.
Okay.
Your hands here.
All right.
And I'll say, Ray, and we bow. Right? Very good. Thank you, Barry.
So much. I really enjoyed this.
Thank you.